Hello, I am in Tokyo now to attend the YouTube Creator Summit of 2019. Here I met a very interesting and important person, Mr. Andrew Price, the Blender Guru.
Hello, viewers. How's it going?
So you might be aware that Learn Engineer uses software Blender. It's a very powerful 3D animation software, and he's the biggest guru of that software, Blender. I hope you can introduce yourself something about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Andrew Price. I'm from Australia, and I've been using Blender, the 3D animation software, which is free. It's
That's
free.
that's that's the main point.
Open source, free software. Anyone can download it. And I started using it 15 years ago, and I've been making tutorials for about 11 years, believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's a free and powerful software. Am I
it
right?
is. Very, very powerful.
So that's my first question is all about. I saw your videos. Your first Blender tutorial was 7 years old. So 7 years back then, Blender was very tiny. It was not at all powerful. People were doubtful about whether I should use it or not. Lot of bugs. So how did you get a feel that this is going to be the future?
Oh, I didn't. I had no idea. I mean,
Okay.
it was so small, but the only reason I used it was because I was poor. I didn't
Okay.
have money to buy 3ds Max or Maya, which are like $3,000.
Okay.
So I just used it because it was free, and it's just coincidentally become a much bigger software now. Yeah,
Right. Quite powerful now.
yeah, it is.
Nice. And is it a full-time job for you, Blender coaching?
It is basically. So my time is actually split between YouTube and my separate business, which is Polygon.
Okay.
So Polygon is a texture and model library for
Right,
3D
right.
artists.
Exactly.
So that's about 3 years old now, and we hire about 25, 30 people that run Polygon. And so my YouTube channel is just teaching Blender, and then I also tell people about Polygon, and I say, hey, you should use Polygon,
Okay.
and that pays for the tutorial basically. So I don't need to rely on advertising revenue because Polygon is the source of income.
Okay, so Polygon is your main business model.
It is. It
Okay,
is.
maybe the
yeah.
YouTube channel might be supporting that,
is.
driving traffic to that.
It's the marketing engine. That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And we just had a huge release of Blender recently, Blender 2.8.
Yep.
What's your opinion on that?
2.8 it's everything that I've wanted Blender to be for a long time because Blender's been unapproachable to beginners.
Exactly.
Like, for example, selecting an object in Blender was right click, right? And that's just inconsistent with the entire software world. Everything is left click.
Right.
And so that's just one example, but it was everything is a keyboard shortcut. You don't know how to move something unless you know G to move it. There was a lot of friction in order to learn the software.
Right.
And so people were like, oh, what's Blender? Let me try it out. And then they open it up and they go, whoa, and they close it.
Yeah,
and
they get stuck.
Exactly.
They
So-
see a cube over there. And
yeah,
no other
exactly.
thing.
And they can't even click on anything. And they're
Right,
like,
When they left click, nothing gets selected.
exactly, yeah. So many years ago, I made a video talking about why I think the interface of Blender could be improved immensely.
Okay.
And it was a very hot button controversial video because a lot of people disagreed with the ideas. And I didn't, to be frank as well, I didn't frame things in the best way. I had an idea of what I thought the interface should be, but it wasn't there was problems with it as well. But a lot of the core problems have been fixed. And so it's the software that I've wanted for so many years. It's got layers now. It's got a real-time rendering engine.
Right.
It's got it's got proper like tools. You don't have to remember all the shortcuts, and it's left click to select. Yay! So it's like I hope now is the turning point for Blender that it's just gonna like take off. I hope.
There will be mass participation now.
Yeah.
Also, I believe that Blender software developer have heard your voice.
Have what? Oh, right. That I've listened. Maybe. Yeah. I know the guy who made the interface for 2.81, William Rainish. He, back when I made the videos talking about the interface, we talked by email, and he had similar thoughts about like yeah, it could be much better than
much
it is.
better.
And he's the one who built the 2.8 one. So I think we agree on the underlying, idea that like software shouldn't be like a hazing ritual, which is like it shouldn't be like running through a ring of fire and then you make it out the other end and it's like, yeah, you're one of us. You went through all the suffering to learn Blender and now you've made it. Which is what Blender was. It was like seen as this like, yeah, it's tough, but it's worth it to learn it in the end. It's like now, like software shouldn't be that way. 3D software is hard enough to learn as it is without the software being extra complex. So I'm really glad that Blender has become what it is.
Exactly. So Blender 2.0 is so powerful. Now it's more user friendly. So do you see writing is there on the wall for 3ds Max and Maya?
For Autodesk, yeah. Well, there's a lot of some people think that Autodesk released their student pricing
Okay.
because their pricing has always been like basically $3,000-$4,000 a year,
Subscription based.
subscription based for a year, or nothing. Like that was the tier. And so for people who are students or non-commercial use, it was just way too expensive,
Exactly.
right? And so Blender 2.81 came out, and then Blender 2.8 came out, the big one, and Autodesk announced student pricing, which is like, I think $100, $200 a year or so,
Okay.
like very cheap. So some people are like, aha, they're scared of Blender, but they've probably been working on it for years, the model, I don't know. But I would guess that they are, actually, their Maya, they just released Bifrost engine for Maya, which I think is actually, because every time Autodesk announces a release, like an update, you look at the comments and people are laughing. They hate the update. Like, this is what you do? You haven't even fixed the bugs and you just changed the one little thing. Like, the updates have been like notoriously bad.
Okay.
And this year, they had a release for Maya, which is the Bifrost engine. And it's like a procedural engine that allows you to make like simulation effects, procedurally model things, basically competing with Houdini, which is another like software which has rocketed in the last few years. So I think they're worried about Houdini, and I think they're probably also worried about Blender.
Blender 2.8.
Just as a guess, I don't know, but if I were them, I would be like, well, this little software that was nothing is now like, so we should care about
But
it.
I think signals are clear. That's why a huge reduction in the price from $4,000 to $3,300.
Right. yeah, exactly, yeah.
Nice. So since they're open software, I think this is the first open source software which is professional in nature, Blender. All the software which are open source are not so powerful. It is useful only for hobby purpose.
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe all the artists in the world, even though he is into Photoshop or some 2D graphics, he should also master Blender now?
If he's a 2D artist?
Yeah, because now Blender has a 2D option as well.
It does.
Even it has a video editing option.
Yeah.
So do you think that any digital artist, irrespective of whether he's in 3D animation,
Oh,
she should have some
right.
basic knowledge of Blender? Do you think so?
Yeah. I don't think, like, if you do painting, actually, even that is probably still, but like for animation, 2D animation, I really think that the new, it's called Grease Pencil. I really think that the new Grease Pencil tools are amazing. And for people who are, like, I saw this video the other day. It was somebody making a animation of a van, like turning a corner, and there's like people on top, and they like spin out, and the people are 2D, and so every frame in Photoshop, he would like paint on it
Separately.
Yeah, and it was all the comments said like, just use Blender Grease Pencil, right? For that kind of thing, it is perfect. It's because you can actually paint in 3D space and frame to frame, and you've got the 3D world as well. You can see the perspective, and it just changes so much about how you draw. There's definitely, I mean, you'll never replace Photoshop because, I mean, Grease Pencil will never do everything that Photoshop can do. It's just, it's way better, especially for, like, concept artists, that kind of thing. But actually, there's an artist, Jama Jurabev, who is He worked at like Lucasfilm, and he worked on like Jurassic World. And at the Blender conference last year, he did a presentation showing his work because he uses grease pencil in Blender to sketch out the ideas and position the camera. And like instead of having to like draw a scene in Photoshop and then the director says like, oh, that's cool, can you move the camera a little bit that way or move it closer, and then he's like, oh, I gotta redo the whole thing. Whereas with grease pencil, because it's drawn on like basically like layers, like almost like transparent planes or like in physical space, it's like much easier to move the camera and that kind of thing. So he's been like a pioneer of making Blender like, hey guys, like concept artists that don't use 3D tools, you should use it because you can save so much time. So I think a lot of 2D artists are trying it now as well.
Nice. And true, our audience might be aware about your Blender channel, Blender Guru, but about your Polygon business, I think I was unaware.
Okay.
So can you share more light into that? How many employees you are having? How big it is that business?
Yeah, so Blender Guru is actually basically me. There's one other person that helps with support emails, but it's mostly just me. Polygon is about 25, 30 people.
It's a huge business world.
Exactly, yeah. So that's bigger, but I think as we're growing Polygon and we're growing Blender Guru, we want to like Blender Guru is a marketing engine for Polygon, and therefore if we can grow Blender Guru faster, then we can hopefully grow Polygon faster. So I think
it'll go both hand in hand.
Exactly. So I think we would like to scale Blender Guru as well.
Okay.
To bring on more people to help with production, like video editing. Like I'm doing it all myself.
Okay.
The recording,
you're the
artwork.
marketing phase of the Polygon business.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Andrew, have you watched any Learn Engineering videos, animated videos?
What's that?
Have you watched any Learn Engineering animated videos?
Learn Engineering animated. I've seen a couple, and I checked out your channel before I came here.
Okay.
But I've seen a few. I don't know if you know the name of this guy, but he makes animations of, like, he did one of like a toy car.
Okay.
Pulling back a toy car and showed the mechanisms of a toy car and how it works. And it was so well done. And it just made me realize like how big animation is as a tool for
illustrative.
Yes, for illustrating engineering. Because without it, how would you possibly
it's
explain?
Impossible, right?
But with it, it's just like, oh wow, I get it. You know?
Now it's easy to visualize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So your content is what do you see as the vision of your channel? Why do you create the content?
Yes, so people have difficulty to visualize, especially when things are mechanical. There are a lot of gears connected. With 3D animation, you can easily visualize that.
Yeah, right.
So the picture will be clear in their mind. After that, you can explain the concept very easily.
Right.
So I just wanted to ask you, since you are a professional in animation. So do you have any advice for our animation team?
Oh, right, advice for your team. Yeah. Good question. So I think we were talking about as we're coming in, EV is a real-time rendering engine. It's pretty powerful, but as you said, the quality, it can be hard to get the quality to look, if you're used to cycles, right?
Exactly.
Where everything just works. You add a light and you get the correct shadows, the correct reflections.
In cycles.
It's beautiful, right? EV, you have to spend longer setting it up to make the shadows look exactly the way you want and the reflections. So there's a kind of I think there are some things which are great for EV and some things that are great for cycles. And I don't think it's a good idea to just pick one as a solution. It really depends on what you're doing.
Okay.
But the other thing is that 2.81, which is coming out in a couple of months, but you can download the latest version from the Blender website now.
Okay, beta version.
It has a denoiser in it by Intel. So it's an Intel AI denoiser. And it's incredible at removing noise.
Of EV rendering.
Yeah, from cycles. I mean.
Cycles, okay.
Yeah, so you can get the power of cycles, but with a much more reduced render time. And so I would definitely look at that. What are the computers that they're rendering on? Are they good computers?
Yeah, we render it on i7 processor.
Okay.
Or there's a CPU rendering. And we have one GPU system. That now takes almost 5 to 6 minutes to render one frame in cycles.
Ooh, yeah.
But using EV, we found that takes just 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But my artist find that the quality is there's some difference. He has to adjust for
Yeah.
that.
I've got a tutorial on architecture in EV, and although it's about architecture, it's also about using EV to get really good lighting and shadows and
Okay.
reflections. So I went through a lot of work to figure out EV to make it how to make it look good. So if the artists, your animation team are watching it, check out that video,
Okay.
and maybe you can make the EV render look much better. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So thanks a lot, Andrew Price,
Yeah.
for spending your time with us. I hope there will be more valuable videos uploaded on our channel in future. So thank you
Yeah,
once
yeah, of
out. All
course.
the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Sabin.